Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to go over the trades that we took today inside the Discord, as well as the game plan going into tomorrow. So, right off the open, what do we look like? So, if we pull up the weekly contracts, this tells us the trend in the market. And right off the open, we got this massive gap up on SPY, and we ended up crossing, and we were bullish at one point, but then in the afternoon, once this 50 SMA started to turn down, that's when I considered the market neutral, just because that 50 SMA has to be flat or curling up for it to be considered a bullish market. And initially it was, and then on this pullback down in here, the 50 SMA ended up pointing back down. So at that point, I consider the market neutral because that cross isn't valid at the moment. So you pretty much just have to wait for that 50 SMA to turn up, and then we'd have the trend. So initially was pretty bullish, but then once I started to really look at the higher time frames on what we were looking like, I wasn't surprised with how we moved today, with how we dumped. So if we pull up like the 2 hour here, the 2 hour we ended up hitting nothing too major on it, but again, that is a resistance point, and this is the major point right here, 4 hour 50. You guys could see exactly the top that was made today, right at that 4 hour 50, and we ended up getting a pretty significant pullback from there. So that's what I told Discord to look out for today, is this 4 hour 50. Once we get up in that area, really wouldn't be that bullish, and we end up projecting that and seeing a big move down. But that's not the trade I took, just because I'm not just playing a 4 hour time frame on futures. It's pretty hard to do that, given how big the time frame is. So that just kind of gives me an idea of where we're gonna head, and then I use the 0DT charts to give me an entry point. So when we go to the 0DT charts, this is what we looked like. So right off open with a gap up, obviously the calls ended up being crossed here. There's no entry to take right here. This pullback to the 10 SMA isn't something I'm taking because we got a big gap up, and you don't buy a 10 SMA dip in a neutral market, or in a bullish market. Technically at the open we pretty much were. First 30-minute candle, obviously didn't form yet, but again, it was a super big gap up. I was expecting some sort of pullback because of how big of a gap there was between the SMAs and price on the 30-minute. So there's no entry right here. There was this little, I guess, this isn't even considered a cross because we gapped up. The reason for the cross, or this little spike on the premium, was because of the gap up right here. There is no trade to take. And then once we got this dip to the 50, it was not something I was interested in taking either, just because again, we were at those big time frame resistance areas. So I wanted to see us get back above this green line, which is a 10 SMA, to go long. If we got that, I would have tried a light position, nothing too crazy, just because again, we're neutral. We're not neutral. We're at that higher time frame resistance area, so it's still not that ideal of a trade. But if we got it, I would have tried some. But yeah, this is not any trade that I did take here on the call side. This chart went negative, still no entry for me. I was just looking for a cross on the puts at this point. So when we pull up the puts now, you guys can see what happened. We ended up getting this cross right here, 10 going above the 50. 50 ended up curling on this candle right here at 145. That's the entry point I got. I call this out in the Discord. If we pull this up really quickly, I'm gonna see. I'm pretty sure I sent out what the chart looked like. Yeah, so this is what it looked like. Actually, it was the 152 candle. So if we look up here, so this is what we got right here. 10 above the 50, 50's curling up. This is the entry point you were taking, just because you could see the 50 started to curl, 10 is up nice, and this is where you would get the entry point. So went short here, and you guys can see the move that we got. Really nice move out of this cross, all the way up to 168 on the premium there. And I ended up taking ES on this one, just because at the time when I was watching the charts, I saw that NQ was a bit stronger. But then after this cross ended up forming and we actually started to move down, it really didn't matter what you took. Both were moving pretty much the same exact way. So if you took NQ, you would have got paid like 50 to 60 points. If you took ES, you got about 10 points on it. I think that was the max I was up, and that's where I took everything off at. In a neutral market, 10 points in ES, 50 points in NQ. That's pretty much your take profit areas of where you want to be selling at. So yeah, and then rest of the day here, there really wasn't anything else to take, because again, this is getting so late in the day on the right side of this chart. After this move down, that's all I need. There's no other entry points I'd be taking right here, just because again, towards the end of the day, no interest in trading that second half of the chart, especially in a neutral market. After we got that solid move down from the cross, this is all you needed. This is all that you really should have taken today. There really wasn't other entry points to take when it comes to SPY. And again from yesterday. I forgot to go over this, but we ended up swinging hood into today, and that was an absolute banger of a trade. I mean, this is what the chart looked like off of open. So I had some small runners going into today. Ended up selling all of them for about 350%. That's where I ended up selling it at. It went a little bit higher, I believe, but then I cut it after this big leg down here in the morning. So 350% on hood. I did swing PDD. Ended up getting killed on that one. I'm not gonna lie. I held it to 0 just because I saw there were such big buyers for PDD for Friday expiration, and it was over 1 million in the weeklies. So I don't know. I saw that on the option chain, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna give it a go, hold it. If I take a loss, it's all good because we got hood. I mean, hood makes up for that loss and plenty more. So that's kind of my take on why I just held PDD, because okay, maybe in case it does rip, then I will get paid, and if not, it's really just a small portion of the profits from hood, because hood was such a big move that we got. But I'm gonna try and find the PDD chart of why I took it. It was pretty simple. It was just a 30-minute cross that didn't end up playing out. I was up 35% at one point, but as you guys know, I'm not looking to sell for 35%. I'm looking for at least 50% before I take any trims. That's just how I do it, just because I know the moves the system gives on a regular basis. And great example, hood. I mean, that's why. I mean, I trimmed half for 60%, trimmed half of the remaining position at 120%. Or 130%, and then we swung the rest into today and got 350%. So, when you're able to navigate winners like that, and then you take a loss, I mean, it really doesn't affect it that much. But PDD, I'm trying to find the chart. I know one of these is the September. Okay, yeah, this is the right one. So, pretty much, if we go to 30-minute here, we end up getting this cross right here. I honestly should have just cut it when the 50 went down, but I didn't. And I held this into today, and obviously these contracts got tanked. We got in at 0.70, and I was up at one point all the way up to 0.96, so whatever that is, 35%. I mean, I'm not trimming for that amount. So yeah, that was that PDD. We took a loss on it. Usually don't hold my losses to 0 like that, but I gave it a go, and obviously we paid the price for that. But yesterday at the close, man, PDD was ripping after hours. It was up 1.5%. I thought we were gonna end up flying, because this chart didn't go negative yet. So my bet was that okay, it's gonna reclaim this in the morning and we're gonna rip, just because there was so much loaded into the contract that day. And then we didn't go negative yet, so I was thinking maybe we'll get a gap up and then get back by the 10 to 50. So yeah, I want to see that chart to go negative to stop out, and obviously that happened today, and the contracts are pretty much 0. So I'm still holding these. Maybe it makes a crazy move over the next day or two into the end of the week here, but I would need a pretty much miracle for that to happen. But that's what we did. We swung hood, PDD. Obviously, PDD was a big loser. Okay, I wouldn't say a big loser. When you compare it to hood, I mean, hood makes up for that entire loss, and then probably triple of what that loss was actually when it comes to hood. So, yeah, hood was a really good one. And then, like I said, we caught SPY today. Game plan for SPY tomorrow, really simple. There's really no game plan because there's CPI in the morning. So, all depends how we open up. I mean, if there's a drastic move, it's going to be hard to catch a trade, just because we're going to be overextended on one side if we get a big move from CPI. So honestly, I really don't have a game plan. I mean, if there's some sort of cross that happens that, we don't get a big move from CPI, then that'd be great. If there's some sort of 10 SMA reclaim after we dip to the 50 on the 0DT chart, maybe that's something we could take. But I mean, going into tomorrow really isn't much of a plan, just because we have a big news event. So, who knows what's going to happen. Hopefully we catch something. We might not. I'll probably look around for some individual stocks. But yeah, that's what we did today. If you guys enjoyed, drop a sub. If you guys want to learn, join our Discord down below. That's where all the trades are shared, all the knowledge on the systems in there. And yeah, I'm out. Peace.